Welcome to Ed Fluential Sports, where passion meets precision. As I'm your host, Ed, diving deep into the plays, players, and stories shaping the game. This is episode 29 of Sports Fanatic Forum, live on YouTube and TikTok with it. So we're going to get right into it. Zips update. Starting talking about the Akron baseball team. They're now 17 and 23. They're 7 and 14 in the conference now, 1 and 3 in the past week. I don't know if they played on last Tuesday. I kind of forgot, but I know in their last four games, they are 1 and 3, and three of those losses featured a three-game losing streak. So the Akron's baseball team has continued to struggle throughout the year. Softball hasn't been as bad. Softball didn't have a great stretch, but it was a bit better. But I'll get into them later on. But baseball still not doing great. Like I said, 1 and 3 last four games, 6 games under 500. Have a much better out of conference record. Within the conference, they're 7 and 14, so they have struggled heavily in the conference. But in their out of conference games, which has been 19, they played their 10 and 9, one game over 500. So not terrible when it comes to out of conference play, but you would hope that it could be better than that. But this season is pretty much a wrap for the Akron baseball team. Not much hope for them. Unlikely. So very limited chance they can make. Maybe mathematically they might still be in the playoffs, but very unlikely they can make the MAC tournament. Not even the playoffs, but the MAC tournament in general, because that would be if they could get in, if they could get into the MAC tournament, that'd be their only way of making a bigger tournament to have a chance at the College World Series, but that's likely not happening. Then Brody and Blake, they both got 30 plus runs on the season, so that went up from last week when I talked about it. So we are getting some more runs, but like I said, the last four games haven't been great, taking three losses in those last four. But Brody and Blake, they both have 30 plus runs on the season. The only two dudes with 30 or more hits, 30 or more runs um, on the season. So they've been good. Well, they've been good enough. I mean, well, they've been solid, not good enough because they aren't getting wins, but they did everything they can. So it is what it is. Then Elijah and Brady, they both have over 30 strikeouts on the season, so they've been doing a solid job pitching. Hasn't been amazing, but it's something. The batting average for the team isn't that great. Batting average of a point 272 for the team, but that's also the same as their opponents. So they had the same batting average as their opponents. So you would think they'll be at least a little better, but still remain 6 games under 500. And still, they did win their last game, so they have snapped that 3 game losing streak. But yeah, 2 point the average being the exact same as your opponent's not great, especially when you're giving up 271 RBIs in total on the season. So, like I said, the baseball team continued to struggle. It's been rough for the baseball team. But softball isn't doing too bad. Akron softball team is now 26 and 21 on the season. Not amazing, but it is 5 games over 500, so it's solid. And then their conference record is really good. They're 17 and 4 in the conference. Now, out of conference, not great. 8 games under 500, being 9 and 17, which that could be a real issue if they would do win the MAC tournament and get a shot in the playoffs. Because these teams that they're not seeing as much, it's like you probably only see them for that stretch of games throughout the season, for that couple of games y'all play against each other. And if you meet back up with them, probably won't be favored in any of those games. But in conference, they've been great. Went 3 and 2 in the past week, but it was two really weird games they had with Robert Morris. It was like it was a doubleheader. The first game with Robert Morris, they ended up losing. They gave up like 20 plus runs in that game. Then the second game versus Robert Morris, they ended up winning that one 10-2. And then softball is the mercy rule, which I think the mercy rule is kind of dumb, but that's maybe I'll get into that a bit later or in a different. It might be something I say for later, or if I have time, I'll talk about it more. But yeah, so the mercy rule happened in both games actually. So both games was 5 innings against Robert Morris in the doubleheader, which, like I said, really weird because the dynamic completely shifted from game one to game two as they took a break, took like a 30-40 minute break. So that was I really don't understand doubleheaders in baseball because you already play 3 to 4 days in a row in a week. You get one day of rest, and sometimes you're playing a well. That depends. If you're at home, you're probably playing 8 straight days, and then you'll get that day or two of rest, so you can travel to the next state or city or whatever. So, but the softball team, like I said, it's been solid. You got most recent series was against UMass, which they won 2 games to one, so that's cool. Like I said, out of conference, not great. Lee Megan is having a really great year. A .40 batting average. That's spectacular. Don't see a lot of people with that well of a batting average. But she's doing her thing. Then as far as fielding goes, the team has 6 women with 100 or more catches on the season. Only one of them has over 200, which is Sophia Wygast. She has 251 catches on the season, so she's doing her thing. But yeah, softball doing solid. Had a decent week, nothing crazy. Pretty basic week, 3-2, but it's still good. Like I said, the Robert Morris games were really weird. They were entertaining, but man, how those games played out was really weird. But it's whatever. Um, well, the next thing is just lacrosse. But before I get into that, I do think the mercy rule is objectively dumb, especially in baseball, because I get why they do it. If you're up by 8 or more runs after the now, if you're up by at least 8 runs by the fifth inning, then they'll just end the game there instead of doing the typical seventh for softball in college. But also seeing it in baseball, they use the mercy rule, and it's like the same, I think, which I find is dumb because how are they supposed to be prepared for the next level if the game just ends in the fifth inning? Even in softball, it's like even though let's on watch softball, I watch baseball, but for baseball, if the game ends in the sixth inning, how are they going to be prepared for the MLB? Because there's no mercy rule in the pros, so I get it, not trying to have games go for so long and getting people back home before a certain time. But at the end of the day, I feel like just play the games, and some of the rules in college need to be adjusted for these sports in general. I think the same can be applied for basketball and football. Like, there's no reason for college basketball not to do a jump ball when it's a tie up. Like a possession arrow, that's stupid. You're not getting a possession arrow in the NBA. They're playing two halves in the men's college basketball. That's really weird to me. Even the women, they don't do jump balls either. They do the possession arrow too. Never understood that. Football, I think most of the stuff is pretty much the same. I think the overtime rules is a bit different. I would change the overtime rules in college too, because I get it trying not to have guys get injured. But I feel like it's something better than them starting at the 25-yard line. Like but that's how I feel about it. I think a lot of college rules need to be changed, but that's something I could talk about a different day. But Akron's lacrosse team, 10-4 in the season, 5-1 in the conference now. They won 16-7 over Youngstown State to clinch a MAC playoff berth, so they'll be in the MAC tournament. Then if they get through that, they'll be in the actual tournament. So we'll see what happens. But that was a great performance by them. You had four. They scored as a team. They scored 4+ runs in 3 of the 4 quarters in the game. I think the third quarter was the only quarter they didn't score over four goals. Kellen Fletcher, she had a great game with 2 goals and 3 assists. Sienna Hinchcliffe had another great game, and she had 6 goals and 5 assists. Yeah, she had 6 goals and 5 assists. She's been the top player throughout the year and has led this team to where they at being 10-4 in the season. I think this is back-to-back wins for them, if I'm not mistaken. Either back-to-back or 3 straight, but I'm pretty sure it's back-to-back. Katie Barmer had 4 goals and 2 assists, so just it. Those three played really well. Spotlight players for that game, but the whole team in general played well. A 16-7 win helped clinch the MAC playoff berth. Youngstown State, they had 4 different women score goals for them, but it didn't really matter because Akron was just a better team. They just worked better together. I'm going to check and see that because I think it's back-to-back wins, but I could also be wrong. Something to make sure. Because if it's not back-to-back wins for the Akron lacrosse team, then it's definitely 3 in a row. But I'm checking that now before I move on to the next topic because I want to be wrong about that. Um, game. Yeah, that's back-to-back wins. Yeah, it's back-to-back wins for their team. So that's back-to-back games scoring 16 points too. So I didn't even realize that, but that's cool. So 30, 32 total points. Outscored their opponents 32-13 in their last 2 games. And the win before the Youngstown State win was against Robert Morris, who our baseball team played. I'm pretty sure these schedules all intertwined during the season against a certain opponents. So that's actually kind of cool. But yeah, softball doing well, lacrosse doing great, headed to the MAC tournament, and baseball under 500. Not much more I can say about the baseball team, but that wraps it up for Zips update for this week. And now we can move on to the bowling spotlight. The PBA Roy Foreman Doubles Championship took place yesterday. Didn't realize it was. Well, I had not yesterday. It took place on Sunday. And today Tuesday. Yeah, it took place on Sunday. I watched it yesterday because I kind of forgot that the PBA does double sometimes. But this was entertaining though. You had two teams going. You had four teams left, and then whoever was the last two, they had face off in two matchups to determine who had won. Now, I don't know what happens if they both split. I think it's highest total score if they both split in those two matchups because it's always planned to go two. Actually, no. Now they would have did a third one because it's a race to two. It's a whoever wins two. So actually, it would have did. It's the best 2 out of 3 for the championship when they do the doubles. So wrong about that. But yeah, I started with a pair of brothers who I didn't realize were bowlers, Sean and Anthony Laver Sar. I just in my notes I just wrote them down as the LS brothers because I didn't. That's a very long thing to write down. But the LS brothers took on Eric Jones and Dio Bernard. Um, yeah, then I knew a few more of the people in the second game. In this matchup, I didn't really know most of them. I knew who Eric Jones was because I've seen him before, but this was actually solid. I mean, Eric Jones and Dio Bernard, they had a solid game. Left a few open frames. Just left a couple of open frames early. Nothing crazy, but I think actually not. It was in the later matchup. The open frames they had a couple of spares, but they ain't leave. I think they had like one open frame and just didn't do anything crazy. But the LS brothers had a really good performance. They did their thing. Um, they finished with a 255. They ended up winning that 255 to 238. So they just had a really good performance and showed their chemistry being brothers. And especially doubles, I feel like that's way harder to win than doubles because now you're relying on somebody else. It's not just yourself you got to rely on. So it is somebody else to place the blame on if y'all lose. So that's if you want to be selfish, but just in general, it's definitely harder to win a doubles matchup in bowling because now is you're not going each and every time. You got to rely on somebody else. You might not know. I mean, I was someone that works together. They know each other's techniques and stuff. They could just have a really off day, and they could just result in a loss. And Eric Jones and Dio Bernard, they didn't even have a bad performance. It was a solid performance. But the LS brothers just came through and had amazing games. Then the second match was AJ Chapman and Zach Wilkins taking on Santu Tavahaven and Ethan Fourier. Now Santu Tavahaven and Ethan Fourier, y'all know I know a lot about them. I've been following them. AJ Chapman, I think I've heard of. Don't know much about Zach Wilkins, but this was definitely the best matchup of the weekend because they was going crazy. They didn't leave any open frames. If I'm not mistaken, it was some spares, but it was no open frames. Like every pin went down from what I remember. Yeah, because there was some open frames later in the matchups, but it was no open frames left in this. But yeah, Santos. Now it was a few early struggles though for Santu Tavahaven and Ethan Fourier, and just not even. And when I say struggles, I mean getting spares. So it was a few spares they got early. They end up getting them behind a little bit, but then they was able to bounce back. It's AJ Chapman and Wilkins. They had a good start, then they cooled down towards the middle of it, and then just from there on, it was like a toss up. Anybody could have won this, but AJ Chapman and Wilkins did pull through, winning 268 to 256. So that was cool. Yeah, it was just this was a really great game by Tablet having a 4 year, but they just weren't good enough. Chapman Wilkins still was able to get the win, didn't have as many spares, and they advanced to the championship matchup, taking on the LS brothers. So that was definitely both of the first two matchups was definitely entertaining. I do think the second one was the most entertaining as it was the closest, and it had more strikes and it had a few more nine pins. Didn't think it don't think it had any open frames in this one, maybe one, but I feel like I would have remembered if it did. So then you got AJ Chapman and Zach Wilkins taking on the LS brothers, Sean and Anthony Laver Star. If I'm saying that correctly, like I said, I have no idea, but yeah, they wouldn't uh, just lost focus for a bit. But anyways, first match was kind of close. This is where it had hella open frames. It was a lot of open frames in this one, especially early on. Struggles from both teams throughout. So this is one of the low. This was the lowest scoring matchup, even lower scoring than the second matchup they had in the race to two. But Chapman and Wilkins, they did pull away, winning 216 to 201. Bad performances by both teams because it was like they can do much better because we just seen them do much better and seen their opponents outscore them. Their opponents would have won if they had this score in advance. So it was it was like this is a rough watch, especially for that third match with these two teams going at it. And I don't even know if, and plus they got a break, so it's not even them being tired because at the end, as a bowler, you got to get used to this. That's just how it is. It's going back to back to back, and then they had a break, and it's like everybody had the same um, deal with the same situation. So it's like I don't know what really went wrong here. Well, obviously having multiple open frames went wrong, but I don't know what, like a few bad curves here and there, and it was like, man, anybody could lose this. It wasn't even anybody could win. There was anyone, either one of these two teams could lose. But AJ Chapman, Zach Wilkins, they got the win, and now they just need one more win to close it and win the championship. So then you get to match four, which is them once again, AJ Chapman, Zach Wilkins taking on Sean and Anthony Labersar, because like I said, the championship is a race to two. So whoever can, so the best out of three on, I guess race to two makes sense. I don't know. I feel like I want them to change it to best of three, but race to two, I guess, make. Actually, I don't know because race and bowling don't really go together. I get why they use it because it's the first to win two matchups, but it's whatever. But this was much chap. Now both teams did play better. They did get some better curves, did get more strikes in this matchup. But Chapman and Wilkins, they won this one with ease, 250 to 218. It's like Sean and Anthony, they scored two more than they did. Actually, they scored 17 more. This is still one of their another bad game because, like I said, their previous score and the other scores beat both of their final scores. So once it got to those last two matchups, the championship match, they just struggled. They couldn't do anything, which I was like, with the way the LS brothers have been playing, I was surprised. I wasn't surprised if they lost, but I did think it could be a bit closer. And then I did think it could go to a third match, to go to have a fifth total match to decide the winner, but it didn't. Chapman Wilkins stay locked in out of 250. Like I said, didn't leave as many open frames, didn't have more strikes than the previous round or previous games. So yeah, Chapman and Wilkins, they win the PBA Roy Foreman doubles championship. I said a great effort. They had to win. Well, actually, whoever won would have had to win three matches, and they were the team that did it. So when it comes to athlete of the week, I might just give it to both of them because they both played a part in getting that win for them. And then it's like, man, Santu Taba having an Ethan Fourier gave them the most competitive match. That was the most competitive game and the most fun game. Seeing Chapman and Wilkins go against Taba having and Ethan Fourier. Like I think it was Fourier who had a bad frame late in that matchup. So it was like, man, that was definitely the best game. Then neither one of the championship matches delivered. And the PBA's been having some great championship matches this year. This was not that. The second matchup was much better. Which sometimes it is good to have a really good matchup that's like right in the middle, like the second or third matchup, which it was the second this time. But you would hope for the championship game, at least one of. I mean, I guess the first part of the championship was a bit close with it being by 15, but it's still like that's still a low scoring. Um, that's still low scoring. It's like at least it didn't go below 100 because there was some weeks where guys went under 100, not under 100, but under 200. I mean, so at least nobody went under 200 as we've seen the last couple of weeks in some of these matchups. But it's that's pretty much all I got though. Congrats to AJ Chapman and Zach Wilkins. They played well. I'm pretty sure if the PBA don't have another event next week, then I probably do. Well, actually, I could just say the rankings for Thursday podcast episode, which I'm not sure what I'm doing on Thursday. So I have to figure that out because I got something to do on Thursday. So I'm gonna figure out how I'm gonna do that. But anyways, yeah, it was the first two matchups. Like I said, really entertaining. The last two, it was whatever. The third matchup wasn't bad. It was just like it was kind of disappointing, even though it was close. Hot take of the week. Hockey Town says Stephanie should be heel and Julia should be face. And I don't think this is a hot take. I think a lot of people are saying this. I think it makes sense that you move one. It just makes sense that you move both of them because you can. I think you can turn Julia face soon. Like it don't have to take long to turn her face. She can lose to Tiffany. Then the story is now Julia and Kiana James, and maybe Kiana James to get the belt off of Tiffany. I think that'd be a great decision. But yeah, Julia could be. She would be more over as a face. I feel like because I think fans are at a point where it's like they know she's good, but they kind of feel bad for her. So it's like they feel bad for her. They want to see her get more. So you transition, you make her a face, and then her and Kiana can have a match. Kiana could turn on her. That way, Kiana James can stay heel, shocking the crowd, just disrespecting her, talking about how she lost the title. And then eventually she does get the title back after doing all that trash talk. So it'll be a good way to build that up. That'll be something good for SmackDown because you need something to make it more entertaining. It's like Kiana James has been great. So I think you keep Kiana James as a heel because of how great she's been. And that way you can turn Julia face, have her do her own stuff. She can cut promos in her native tongue, just put the little captions on the bottom. So I think that'll really benefit Julia because the manager thing ain't working out. I think her getting sympathy from the crowd would be good for her. So I think that's what you got to do with that. Yeah, like I said, Julia Tiffany, not Julia Tiffany. Well, Julia Tiffany gonna have a match. Tiffany got to win. You can do Kiana turning on Julia. Probably not right after, but you can keep building it for a little bit. Kiana James maybe steal an opportunity from Julia to get the U.S. title back. Then Julia's confused about why she did that. So it's kind of just Kiana James going into business for herself, and then her attacking Julia that way to get the crowd to boo her, so the crowd can feel sympathy for Julia. It'll be a good way to turn her face, in my opinion. So I think that's what you should do. Then as far as Stephanie, for now Stephanie is fine as a face because she's still doing the stuff with Liv Morgan. So I think they have to have a rematch based off of what happened at WrestleMania with the short match with Liv and no with Raquel and Roxanne getting involved. It's like some you got to do a rematch and change it up because that did kind of prove Stephanie's point that Liv needs help to win. So like Liv didn't really disprove anything that she said. Obviously, we know that's how they booked it, but in kayfabe, she didn't really do what. It's like this is exactly what Liv said about. This is exactly what Stephanie said about Liv. So Stephanie, Liv, that's gonna be. I think they have a rematch that's gonna be better and hopefully longer because they didn't have enough time at all. So you can make once you make that rematch, that's cool. Have Liv win, of course. So then after that, you can't turn her immediately because Raquel is probably gonna turn. So it got to be something supernatural or something natural. So um, and then with the aspect of her being a dark angel, it's like she's a face, but she's a dark angel. So I do agree you got to turn Stephanie at some point, but it can't be as soon as she has the rematch because then that wouldn't make sense unless you're planning on turning Liv too. But then you would get a Raquel turn, maybe like the Judgment Day stuff. Like that's its own separate story, but you can't have that many turns at once. I feel like but we'll see what happens. But I do think Stephanie will benefit from being a heel. Her character, her gimmick just feels like a heel, something a heel would do. And her WrestleMania entrance is one of my favorites. It did feel like a face entrance. But I think Stephanie will be better as a heel because we haven't seen it yet. I don't even know if she was when she was at CMLL, I think. I don't think she was a face over there either. No, I don't think she was a heel over there either. She might have been a face because when she had, or actually, I don't know. Because I just know Mercedes was the heel going into their match, but I didn't know much about Stephanie at the time. So I don't remember what her character was during. Well, she's always been the Dark Angel, but I don't know if she was a heel or a face during that time. So, and then one thing we haven't seen is a heel Stephanie versus a face Julia, because we've seen them go against each other before. But Stephanie was the face when they went against each other in NXT and Stardom, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So we got to see the roles reversed because I know they're gonna have a match on the main roster we're gonna have to shake it up a little bit. But a heel Stephanie versus face Julie will be a great match. I think you get them time, you get them a proper story, let them do what they did in NXT, or even what they did in Stardom. If that was where they wrestled at, I think that's where they were. You can let them do something like that. I think it'd be a great build. I think it could be a really good mid card feud because I don't know because SmackDown needs bodies, and then Raw could use because Raw could use some women still. So I don't know what brand they will be on, but whether that's for the US or IC title, probably for the IC title, maybe you can move Julia to Raw, even though SmackDown's getting a lot of people. Once Kiana James whoops up on her, yeah, Kiana go over, and she take on Tiffany, and then you can get Julia and Stephanie, or maybe even a number one contenders thing, like they meet in the Queen Ring finals with heel Stephanie taking on the face of Julia, and Julia goes over, winning Queen of the Ring, and that could be super dope to see. So if they go heel Stephanie, face Julia, it's multiple different routes they can go, and I think will work really well. They just need the proper time to build the story, to have some matches, or not one, have some matches that involve some other people, maybe a mixed tag or just some regular tag matches in general. But I think that'd be super dope to see. So yeah, I think you could turn. So I agree with the hot take. Stephanie should turn heel, just not yet. Once she's done feuding with Liv Morgan, it's definitely a realistic possibility. It all just depends on when they do it because she got to pull the trigger at the right time. And then for Julia, I agree. I think you can pull the trigger now. I feel like it's long overdue at this point. It's like Julia should just be a face already. Kiana James, she should just turn, remain heel. So that way, because if she turns on it, then because Julia can't turn on her, because then Julia looks like the heel. Now the fans gonna cheer whatever they want, but that's just unfortunate. But you gotta have yeah, and then once they had a match, like I said, Julia, I feel like she should win that one-on-one match. So yeah, as far as hot take of the week, Hockey Town, I agree with that. I do think Stephanie needs to be a heel, but once she's done feuding with Liv Morgan and Julia, she could turn face yesterday. So now I'll spend the next 13 or so minutes talking, maybe 12, talking about Raw. My thoughts, the first Raw post WrestleMania. Let's get into it. Uh, and plus, I already covered the Soul Ruka and Liv Morgan stuff. That's Stephanie. So that I don't have to cover. Brock and Oba, not Brock. Oba I've already covered, and the Roman and Fatu thing I've covered. And speaking of Brock, he had a really dope video package. That was cool to see. So shout out to him. The But anyways, Raw got a lot of heavy hitters now. They didn't really upgrade this roster, and it's really gonna help this Netflix era of WWE. Raw got Ethan Page, the Street Profits, Sol Ruka, Joe Hendry, and Jacob Fatu. This is great. You put Fatu in the main event scene. The Street Profits making known they're going after the tag titles. Joe Hendry's gonna have his concert. Ethan Page is already in the mid card division, and Sol Ruka just wrestled with the Women's World Heavyweight Champion, and you know she's not gonna get another. Obviously, wasn't for the belt, but it was just a good showcase for her. So Raw got some heavy hitters now, and Raw is all. I think Raw has already been better than SmackDown for the last couple of months. Like they just been doing better, and this just helps it even more. SmackDown got to get some people. I know they're getting Punk and Rhea for sure, so they got to get some other people. They need a couple of call ups. They need another tag team as well because you can't lose the Street Profits and get nothing back. Like I know they ain't been on TV, but you got to get something back for losing the Street Profits. So now let's talk about Raw as a show in general, though. Rio defeats the Kabuki Warriors at the beginning of the show. Not the exact beginning, but it was like close to the beginning. It was a cool match. I enjoyed it. It was some nice spots, but all this did was prove Oscar right in the promos that he's been cutting leading up to this. The promos before, and this is another match between Rio and the Kabuki Warriors, and Rio wins again. But it was like I said, everything Oscar said was right. She's saying that she ain't been the same since she left. Claiming that EO's ain't that EO hasn't been the same since being in this appearance her partnership with Rhea that she just forgot about them, this and that. And it's like you can't even say Oscar sounds jealous because everything she's saying has validity to it. And so it's like you can't argue against any of that. Then you had Javon and speaking of Ethan Page, who I mentioned earlier, Ethan Page and Javon Evans, they got into it backstage. And then because Javon Evans, he was letting Penta know, he was like, hey, you had a good performance, but I still want the IC championship. And then Ethan Page, he was like, I know you aren't begging for a second chance or something like that. I forgot what he said. He was like, when I'm going to get the IC title, I'm going to do it on my first chance, unlike you. So obviously they got history together in NXT. So then that set up a one-on-one match, which they later had in the night, which I'll just talk about now, even though it wasn't next. But that was a good match between Javon Evans and Ethan Page. It was a good showing for Ethan Page, a good way to debut him on Raw. And then it let us know that he's already after a championship, already after title gold. And we've seen how he could help the NXT mid-card division. So I'd imagine he'll be great with the main roster mid-card division with the IC title. So we'll see. Maybe he gets a match against Sheamus. That'll be cool to see. But yeah, that Ethan Page did end up winning. Um, Rusev and Penta got involved. Rusev got involved during the match. Penta didn't come out till after. So it was whatever. It probably won't be a four-way. It's just a good way to set up multiple contenders towards a belt because they could probably do Penta and Rusev. Penta gets the win. Then you can take Rusev out the equation, but you'll probably get a tag match and stuff like that. But Javon and Ethan, they did their thing, just like how they were doing in NXT. So this was cool. I like this. The match was cool. I do wish it kind of ended differently. Then you had Rusev standing tall, taking out Javon and Penta. Then Ethan Page just walked away. So that was just really smart. Just walk away and not deal with it. So, yeah. You had, damn, I'm getting sleepy. You had CM Punk talking about people he had lost, so RIP to them. CM, aside from that, though, after that, he was just yapping, really. So I was like, I don't really get the point of him being out here. He called himself the best in the world, even though he lost on Sunday. So I was like, you know what? You got it. You're the best in the world. You're the best in the world, but you can't pick up a win. And so that don't make sense to me. And you had to low blow Roman and still couldn't get the pin. So I think that was, yeah. It was like that promo. It was kind of, eh. And then he kept harping on this. If a championship opportunity falls in my hand, then Cody Rhodes came out there for whatever reason, which I didn't really get. And then he was like, anytime, my friend. So now we know we're going to get CM Punk and Cody. We no idea when, but at least we know we're going to get it for whatever reason because it's like, if another championship opportunity falls in my lap, it's like, I'll take it. And so it seems like he's begging for that to happen. And then he gets granted that wish by flight. So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but it's whatever. You have Paul Heyman with the Vision and the returning Braun Breaker. Shout out to them. Uh, some great boos for Logan Paul. Great to see him getting that heel heat. Austin Theory, he didn't really get to do nothing in the tag match, like I said, but he got to do a little bit more in this, especially um, with it being a segment because they didn't have a match; it was just a segment. And then Braun called out Seth. Seth came out there, and he had a chair, and he was going crazy. But then the numbers game caught up to him, and that allowed what's the name, um, the Street Profits to come out there and provide a helping hand, which I wasn't expecting. Which I don't even think it's about helping Seth. I just think it's about them getting the championships and getting new titles. But we'll see. Paul Heyman, I already mentioned Paul Heyman. Yeah, JD McDonough, he called out Finn Balor, talked about his leadership styles, why he hated it, saying how he only cared about himself, this and that, which I thought JD was cooking because what he was saying did kind of have some facts to it, with how Finn would treat them, how he would talk to him, claiming that he cost them championships, which I think is untrue, but the other stuff he kind of got a point on. That's Oh, then they had the match. Almost forgot to mention they had a really good match, so that was cool. Finn and JD, that match was fun. I enjoyed it. So I'm surprised they're still going with this. I thought the feud would have been over at WrestleMania. Then after Finn got the win, he got attacked post match by by Dominic. So Dominic and Finn part two is bound to happen at some point. But yeah, I mean, eh, if it's not the AAA title, got to be on the line if they're gonna keep it going. So if they're gonna keep this going, they got to have another match, and the AAA title got to be on the line, assuming that Dominic still has it. Because if he doesn't, then cool. But if he does, put it on the line. Put it on the line. Add more stakes to it, and make it more unpredictable. And then you don't have to bring the demon out for this match. I mean, maybe you can, but you don't really need to because it is Dominic, so it's not like he's doing nothing super crazy. But it's whatever. But good win for Finn. He gonna need some help though, because he's gonna keep getting outnumbered. Because obviously the Street Profits came back and helped Seth. And then, like I said, I don't even think it's about helping Seth. I just think if they want tag gold again, and those guys that used to be with Seth just happen to have them, so he want to take they will want to take those from the Vision. But yeah, he had a backstage segment with Gunther and LA Knight. That was cool. It was Jackie Redmond who was interviewing Gunther, and she wanted to know what the favor was that Paul Heyman had. Wanted to know what's next. He was like, he's gonna keep people waiting. So I wonder what it is due to Brock retiring. Because if it's a Brock match, then that's kind of stupid to me. But hopefully, it's something that is creative. We'll see. Because I think, yeah, um, but LA Knight, Gunther, it's gonna be a good program. They're gonna have some good promos, and then both guys want the World Heavyweight Championship, so that's cool. Obviously, Jacob Fatu is going after it now, but this is gonna be a good match to decide who's the number one contender or whatever. I do think Gunther should probably win it. Actually, yeah, Gunther should probably win it because he got to get at least a shot at the title. Like him not being retiring all these people, not even getting a shot at the title. It's like that's kind of bogus. But if LA Knight gets the win, it's not a bad thing because he got history with Roman, and then he been cool with the Usos, so that'll add some more story into it. But I think you can't go wrong either way you go. I think either guy could win, and it'll be perfect. So yeah. And then you had Io Sky and Rhea talking backstage, sad, leaving each other. I thought we already did this. I thought they had already did. Actually, they did already do this split. Then they brought them back together for WrestleMania just to do the split again and make the promo a bit different this time. It was just a waste of time. So Io, she's gonna stay on Raw. Rhea is headed to SmackDown, which adds to the people who are going to SmackDown because actually no, yeah, it's just two people going to SmackDown that I know of. Still waiting on other call ups, so we'll see. But Io and Rhea, that's cool. They split, so yeah. Hopefully they stick to the brand split and try doing shakeups and call ups like this. Because you still have Raw and SmackDown. SmackDown definitely gonna need some more people. You getting Rhea, you getting CM Punk. Hopefully they get Ricky Saints and Soul and not JC Jane, assuming that Soul stays on Raw. So we'll see. Said you will that the Profits are back. Yeah, that's gonna be Denver Division. That's gonna be cool. The Bloodline story. Yeah, I'm excited for that as well. Yeah, they need to keep EO, keep her doing her own thing. Maybe she can go after the U.S. title because not the U.S. title, the IC title because now, or well, she can go after the world title because Liv has it. So I don't know when they're gonna pull the trigger on Raquel splitting from her and turning. So you could do some things, but if you don't, but you could do her versus Becky because she got two heels as champions. So her and Becky for the IC title wouldn't be a bad match because I really don't know what's next for Becky, but I do prefer she lose it to an up and comer. So we'll see what happens with that. But I give Raw 7 out of 10. I thought it was a good show. Um, thought it was a good follow up for what WrestleMania was. Now moving on to the injury report. Um, First is Nikki Bella. She's still out with an ankle injury. And on commentary, they said that she had surgery, so it's really no timetable on her return to action. And I'm still interested to see how she will return, especially considering that Paige replaced her in the WrestleMania match for them to win the tag titles. So I don't know what would happen with that, but yeah, Nikki Bella's still out. They said she had surgery last night, so they said it went well. So uh, yeah, and then I wonder what the story is going to be depending on how long she's out, because I don't see Paige and Brie being a long term thing. But it's also like they have no reason to turn on Paige because she helped them win. So I don't know if they'll continue being faces going forward, or if they'll just be heels, all three of them, or just maybe Paige is the one that turns. And so, and we'll see. For AEW, not necessarily an injury, but um, Samoa Joe, he's just not on TV right now. He's filming a show. What I forgot what the show is, but he ain't been on TV, so I was checking to see where he's been at. He's just filming a TV show, Twisted Metal, I think. So Samoa Joe's not injured or nothing, so that's good to know because I did think he was out with an injury, but he's not. So that's good, and we'll see. Actually, I don't know when we'll see him, but it's whatever. Moving on to the MLB, a few injuries in there. Mick Abel, the starting pitcher for the Twins, he's out with a right elbow injury. Got injured. He suffered the injury yesterday, and he's now been ruled out for the next month. So he'll be back like in the middle of May. So that's gonna be good because he's not missing too much time. Because I feel like the elbow could be out way longer. With just the elbow, right elbow injury, he'll be out for just a little bit. Then he'll be back at some point in this. Well, he'll be back at some point this season, so that'll be good for them. And then the next injury, Dominic Fletcher, right fielder for the Pirates for the MLB. He was assigned back to minor league camp recently, and he's still day to day. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, he should be coming back anytime now, since he's been training. I think he's been in the minor leagues, getting some reps in. So he could be back at any time. He could be back tonight. Maybe he's back in about 3 or 4 days, but he is day to day now. And he's a great coach to recovery. So that's um, that's a great for the Pirates. For the NBA, Emmanuel quickly for the Raptors is still out with hamstring tightness. I don't know if he'll be able to return for Game 3 on Thursday versus the Cavaliers. It is a chance he could, but we'll just see. A hamstring, nothing to play about. We've seen hamstrings keep players out for a long period of time, especially if it's a sprain or something like that. And it's his tightness, so maybe something can change, but just a hamstring, you never want to take a chance on that. So, yeah. Kevin Durant for the Rockets, he's still out with a knee injury. Saying he's last report I checked, it said he was a game time decision for Game 3 tonight versus the Lakers, but I think it's unlikely he plays. I think he's probably going to be out again for Game 2, which is tough for the Rockets. But I don't see him coming back. I just don't. I feel well, not tonight. I think he's going to play in the series, but I don't see him playing tonight. So we'll see. But yeah, he's already. I like I said, I know for now. I know he's a game time decision. He could be ruled out as I'm filming this, but I don't want to keep pausing and checking throughout the podcast, so I just check after. But he's unlikely for game. Did I put game 3? I meant to put game 2. Game 3 is for quickly. Game 2 for Kevin Durant. Very unlikely he'll play. Actually, no, I seen the graphic earlier, so he's not playing tonight for sure. But he was a game time decision earlier, but he won't be there tonight. Then the next NBA injury, Joel Embiid for the 76ers, right oblique. He's been ruled out for game 2 for sure. There is a slight chance he could come back at some point during the Celtics series, but it will be very late. It would have to be like a game 6, game 7. But I don't think the 76ers have a team capable of pushing them with all the injuries that they with the injury of Embiid with Maxey having to be the first option. As good as Tyrese Maxey is, I don't think he can be a first option on a contending team. And he's putting up the stats, but he hasn't been efficient while doing it. So I think Embiid being out definitely hurts them. Prayers up to Embiid because he always has some type of injury he has to deal with, which it just sucks to be him. But this team, they won't get far. Um, Victor Victor Hedman for the Tampa Bay Lightning in the NHL. He's out with personal reasons. He just came back recently and he's been practicing with the team, so he's trying to get back into a groove of things. It's still unclear when he'll return though, but he probably will be back at some point during this playoffs. But with him being, but he did just come back from personal reasons, like I said, so it's kind of unclear. So I'm getting readjusted. He probably, I don't, if the Lightning play tonight, he's definitely not playing. Um, yeah, they do play tonight. They play the Canadians tonight, which they are, which the Canadians did steal that first game. And I'm gonna check the NBA to make sure that Kevin Durant, if he's actually out or not. But yeah, the Lightning they got to win game two tonight because they lose both games at home, then they're they're cooked. The most recent update for Kevin Durant is 5 hours ago, says unknown. So the Rockets posted on the graphic didn't have Kevin Durant on it, so it's whatever. Like, but yeah, back to the NHL. Like I said, Victor Hedman, he'll be back soon, but I think he'll come back at some point in this series. But I don't think he'll be back tonight. Ross Johnson for Anaheim, he's day to day. So maybe that's just injury management since they're not playing today. If I'm not, yeah, they played last night, so maybe just injury management, taking a day off, not or probably limited in practice since he is day to day. And then Nick Jensen for the Ottawa Senators, he has a knee injury. He's a long shot of playing this playoffs because he suffered it recently. So could he play potentially? But it is a very unlikely chance that he does play. So we'll see what happens with that. You said Punk versus Cody could be interesting as well. Yeah, I talked about that earlier. Actually, now that I think about it, the only rumored call ups are JC, Ethan, Soul, and Joe. Yeah, I mean that's all rumored though. We'll see. JC Jane will probably be on SmackDown, like I said. Ricky will just have to wait and find out, but SmackDown needs some bodies, and I imagine they'll call him up too. I know he just got Hobbs or Royce Keys, whatever you want to call them, but they got a few bodies, but they gonna need a team, and they gonna need a couple of NXT call ups because Ricky Saints can shake things up a little bit, especially in that mid card scene. Trick, they probably gonna turn face, so you're in a run back. Trick and Ricky, that could be something entertaining. You don't got to do it right away, but that's something that they could do in the future. Roman with the World Heavyweight Championship looks cool, but feels like some universe. But seems like some universe mode stuff. It feels so odd. I mean, it's still a world title at the end of the day, so it's it's really whatever to me. I'm glad that he won it. I do think it's kind of stupid that he tried to bury the title, call it the B title, then he went after it anyways, and nobody acknowledged that. But hey, if nobody gonna acknowledge it, hey, cool. I guess he got it, so it's nothing anybody can do about it. Now moving on to the main portion of today's show. Can the Magic upset the Pistons? It's a lot of talk about the Magic, and this is the thing that the Magic do. They upset teams in game one. They get the whole world talking. Oh, can the Magic actually get it done? They stole game one. It's this team on fraud watch, this and that. Remember they did it in 2019 when DJ Augustine hit the game winner over the Raptors, taking game one. Then the Raptors won fourth straight. It was a few other years where they won game one. They just came out the gates hot. And it was like, man, maybe Orlando can get it done. Then they end up losing like 5 or 6 games. Don't capitalize off that momentum. But can the Magic upset the Pistons? And I'll talk about game one first, the game that they stole on the road, winning 112 to 1-on-1. From the Magic perspective, they played a really great game. It's nothing like it's you can't discredit Orlando. It's like the entire starting lineup had 10 plus points. Apollo was the one that led them in scoring with 23. He had the most points. He had 23 points. They had 11 team steals, and then they only shot 29% from three. They shot 10 or 34, but you had to applaud them for getting up the attempts because in the past, Orlando didn't want to take threes at all. It's like even though they know that they're a bad 3-point shooting team, it's like you still got to get those shots up because a few are going to fall. Because in this area, you got to take between 30 to 40 threes. You're the Celtics, or you're the Warriors, you're probably taking over that 40. You're probably taking somewhere to 45 to 50 because you have the shooters and the team and the system to do that. But the Magic, if you're getting that minimum, you can at least get that minimum of 3 points attempted with 30. I feel like you're in a good spot because at least you're not afraid to take those shots. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking with Orlando. They're not afraid to. They don't seem afraid to take those shots in this series. And like I said, it's just one game, so I know people are overreacting, calling the Pistons frauds. Now, if they were to lose the series, then sure you can make that claim. But it is just one game, so I do have to preference that before diving deeper into this. But based off this one game, this does give me a topic to talk about, and it is entertaining because the series has been the series that started. But they say a series don't start till a team takes a game on the road, and they already did that. They took a game on the road to start the series. Now, how game two will be played, that's going to determine a lot. And I think game two is tomorrow, actually. I could just look up the NBA schedule because I want to see what's tonight. I know my Lakers play tonight. Yes. So tonight is 76ers, Boston, Portland, San Antonio, Houston, and the Rockets. Um, we better win that game versus the Rockets. Then tomorrow it's Orlando and the Pistons and the Suns and Thunder. Only 2 games tomorrow. Nice. But yeah, it's like I said, just game one. But let's dive deeper into game one and talk about it further because I did talk about it in a post that I made, but I do want to expand further on that. Cade Cunningham was spectacular with his 39 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. He shot 13 to 27 from the field, 3 of 8 from three, 10 of 11 from the free throw line. And Cade was great. This is a really good game by Cade. Now, he was limited as a playmaker because that's what the Magic's defense was able to do. Like I said, them getting 11 team steals and then like I just mentioned, Cade only having 4 assists, that's limiting Cade. You're forcing him to become a scorer because we know he can give you 25 a night. We know he can do that. But now if he's giving you nearly 40 and he's not getting you the assist, he's still getting the rebounds, he's still being efficient, but he can't facilitate because of what you're doing to the other players. That's a great game for Orlando. Tobias Harris, 17 points on 5 of 15 from the field. That's 17 points on 33% field goal shooting. That's not good. And then nobody else on the team scored 10 plus points. So and then Asar Thompson got benched in that second quarter, which Asar as a top 3 candidate for defensive player of the year. I don't even think this is a him problem. It's like I get that he's a shooting liability, but even in a close defensive game like this, because there wasn't a lot of points being scored, this was a good defensive game. You gotta shake a body on Franz or Apollo to just make that game tougher. Because if he's on Paolo more, maybe Paolo still makes some of those shots, but he gets those is gonna be tougher looks for Paolo. Like you never know. It's like while he might be an offensive liability, he's one of the best defenders in the league. He's in the top 3 for DPOY. He'll be on All NBA first team defensive, all defensive first team more than likely. And you only play him 25 minutes. You have bigger staff. You got to play him 30 minutes. But do I think it was a fluke? I don't necessarily like the term fluke because at the end of the day, it is the playoffs and anybody can win a game. It's been 6 times in NBA history where an 8 seed upset a 1 seed. So you just have to be prepared for anybody this is the NBA. And these teams are all in the playoffs and all earning their spots to get here. And so I wouldn't say it's a fluke because I really hate that term. And the way they didn't play as if this was a fluke. They just outperformed the Pistons. They got steals. They got 3-point shots up. Apollo was aggressive. Cade Cunningham had a great game, like I said, but he was limited as a playmaker. They limited him. Well, not even play more as a facilitator because you can still play make for yourself. But they limited Cade as a facilitator throughout that game. So then I'm going to talk about the keys to of success for both teams to win this series, and then get y'all my opinion on do I think they can upset them? Because it's three things Orlando needs to do to win this series. Number one is Paolo. Paolo just has to continue being aggressive. We've seen it in the last few games. We've seen what he did versus the Hornets. Then we've seen what he did the other night in this game versus the Pistons, taking game one to put to make them realize, oh yeah, dude, we're not taking this lightly. So Paulo, he just got to continue being aggressive. I know he's heard some talks, getting those shots up, getting to his spots. If he's open for three, taking it. If he has a smaller guy on him, taking him to the rack. Like Paulo just got to continue being aggressive. That's what you have to do. The defense, the same way they limited Cade from facilitating at a high level, you got to do that again. If you can stop Cade from being a great facilitator, you got a great chance of winning because those guys aren't getting to their usual spots and they're not knocking shots down, which that was the case in game one. So limit Cade as a facilitator because we know he can still, he can pass the ball, but that might be a passing lane for you to read and get a steal there. And so, and then the third thing they need to do, they had to get up those 3-point attempts. Like I said, if you shoot 30 a game, I don't care how many they make. I just want the Magic to get up 30 plus a game because you got Bane for a reason. Black can shoot a little bit. Franz and Paulo, they might not be great, but they're bound to hit a couple of them. So if you can get up 30 plus threes as a team, which is the league minimum, I think at this point now, that's still good, especially in the playoffs for a team like you who don't rely on it. But you know you're going to need it to win this series because the Pistons aren't a good 3-point shooting team either. But in this era of the NBA, you need to at least get those attempts up. Don't take no dump threes, but if you can get 30 attempts like the 34 you had, that's a good amount. Even though you only made 10, 34 is still a good amount to get up in a playoff game. Now for the Pistons to bounce back and win this series, Asar just simply got to play more in the second half. That's the first step. Asar can't be playing just 25 minutes, and he barely played in the second half. He got to finish that game with 32 minutes played. Second thing, need your bench production to just be better. The bench production wasn't great. You need solid bench production throughout this series, throughout the playoffs in general. But if you want to get out this series, you got to get good bench production because the Magic's bench production was really good. And this Magic team looked like what they should have been this season. A healthy team that can compete with anybody. Like that's what they look like in this game, what they should have been. But injuries and stuff held them back. And then the last key for the Pistons is you have to out rebound the Magic. Now the Magic do have some solid size, but you got to win the rebound battle versus Orlando because if Orlando wins the rebound battle, they can get out in transition and get a few fast break points. So that's gonna be really important. You got to win the rebound battle. Now what was my pick for the series? I had the Pistons at 5. I'm not gonna change that to be quite honest with you because I do think the Magic were capable of winning one game. Do I think after seeing this first game play out and how well they played, are they capable of winning more than one? Yes, they could definitely win another game. I don't think they'll win game two, but they can push this series to 6. I would be surprised if it goes 7. But Orlando, at the beginning of the season, I had Orlando as the 1 seed, not the 1 seed, but I thought they would finish top 3 in the East because they added Desmond Bane. Paulo, I felt like should have had an all-star season. And Franz, he's a great second option. Then the defense is great, and I like Jamal Mosley as a coach. But the team has had injuries, been inconsistent, and he ended up falling in the play-in, finishing as the 8 seed. And now they finally look like the team I expected them to be in the beginning of the season. But they're just too inconsistent for me to be convinced that they can win a series. So I do think the Pistons win this series still. I don't think it's going to be 5 anymore. I think it goes 6. 7 is possible. I don't think it'll happen, but it very well could. I'm still leaning towards the Pistons though, but the Magic, they're just showing me too many inconsistencies throughout the season. And like I said, I doubt that I'm pretty confident Sar will get more minutes. Tobias Harris might shoot like that all series because the Magic do got a good defense. But the 3-point shooting, they need to get the attempts up, but they also have to make them, which I don't know how much you trust that. And Paulo is a playoff riser, so I do think he'll continue to play great. But I think the Pistons bounce back. Cade was great. He just got to get a few more assists if he's able to. They really limited him from being a facilitator in that game, so he had to score. So I think Duran, Asar, they Tobias, like everybody just has to play better. which I think they will. I think they'll be well adjusted for game two. But yeah, I don't. Can they? I mean, anybody can upset anyone, but do I think it'll happen? No. I still got the Pistons winning this series, but will it be competitive? Will it be fun? Yeah, because you don't just win. Winning game one by 11, that's not just a fluke. That came down to you just playing better that game. But I'm leaning Pistons in six. I still think the Pistons can get it done. But game one was definitely a wake up call. And if the Pistons do get upset, then we'll be back here in a few weeks talking about it. Well, in a couple of weeks. But I don't think it happens. Now, if it did happen, I wouldn't be mad at it because I do like Paulo. But we'll see what happens in the next few days and next week or so. But yeah, let me know what y'all think. Do y'all think the Magic can upset the Pistons? I don't think they will. I still got the Pistons winning this series. But yeah, leave a like, comment, subscribe.